For the sub tank or this?
Yeah, for the main
for the
tank.
fish tank.
Yeah.
Fish tank is IPC, which is PVC, basically PVC.
Oh,
but also, also just to tell you, so in terms of cost, your normal water tank is about 60 to 80 to 70,000 rupees.
Oh.
Whereas that's 6,000 bucks.
Yeah. It took a bit of elbow grease to like clean it up and to cut the top, but it was fine.
So you recently had a tank breach as well. How did you deal with that? And what was that? When the tank.
This is what I was talking about, the fiberglass.
Yeah.
So basically, it had gotten warped, which is why some of the edges are also visible, which is why some of the edges aren't covered as well by the rigifoam. It got warped because I drilled a hole and messed up the integrity of it. And because it was warped, the pressure was uneven, and one point got more pressure, and there was a crack, and it started leaking. Actually, that led to like me losing one of my pumps because it blew out because the water level got so low that
it was pumping air.
It's a submersible pump, yeah, so it just blows. To buy a new one, so that's another cost problem.
You're replacing them anyway every six months minimum.
Yeah.
So you buy them for 1,500 rupees. You buy the cheapest one and just
just get the cheapest one.
And burn through it.
Yeah.
It's a cost.
So how I sealed it was silicone liquid. I also got some epoxy putty as well, just in case the leak reemerges. But so far the silicone has done a fantastic job. Moving on, so this is actually taken on Friday. Yeah, sorry.
What is the minimum number of fish?
Minimum.
Yeah. So the thing is, so the way that it works is they start by saying what the maximum. The maximum stocking density for aquaponics that is recommended is 45 pounds of fish, about 22 kilos of, let's say about 20 kilos of fish at any 1,000 liters is the most really good. So 22. So given that tilapia can grow as big as you like, but usually at the point at about 4 months they should be about a pound almost. So that means 45 fish max is what you're doing. So I'm probably now pushing at about 30 or more pounds of fish myself. You can have lower, like I ran it with 7 fish. Right, and I had still plants growing, and I still had something coming out, even in 1,000 liters. So it's possible, but you want to get a little higher. But the closer you get 4 to 5, the more dangerous it is. The more something small can kill them,
and the more chance there's more ammonia build up and all that. So it's all about balance. If you add more fish, you generally should add more plants.
Yeah.
Right now I only had like 16 plants, and I still had like really high levels of nitrates. So I can add more plants with that 20. So if I wanted to add 40, I'd have to add far more. So this was taken on Friday. It's actually considerably more growth recently. Let me see if there's a picture of the tomatoes.
So here the plants' roots are in water submerged.
Yeah.
So only certain plants can all plants?
In theory, pretty much any plant can. With some exceptions of like plants that are kind of off, that are more exotic. I highly doubt you'll be able to grow a cactus, but I've seen people grow like lemon trees and stuff. Not in a submerged one, but in aquaponics itself.
There are different systems.
When you store and flood them.
The flood and drain system. Yeah. Exactly.
One of the problems you might encounter is with plants like tomatoes. Growing it in a system like this is very bad because they need a lot of support. They might even get too heavy and they just submerge, or they might just fall over. So this is bell peppers. I don't think I took a picture of the
video.
Why is dog crying?
Takali, but an interesting what you talked about parasites. When I was growing my tomatoes as a test bed, as a test run, I was testing different varieties. I encountered a parasite called leaf miner. So it's basically this fly that lays its eggs inside the leaf of the plant, and the larvae basically mines its way through the plant. So you see like little race tracks, kind of like art on the leaf. And then when it's ready to like germinate or whatever, it falls into the soil and it grows. So when I did this system, I put a few tomato plants in it, and none of the new leaves had any leaf miners in it because they eat it and then they fall in the water, and like either fish eat them or they just die. And so that's a good example, because a lot of these pests that have evolved to consume a lot of these plants have evolved only to deal with it in soil. So it's quite good that way. Okay, so now this video will be very cool. This is basically what me and Harean did to get our tilapia. So it's not that long video there, unfortunately. But we just basically spent like a good 2-3 hours in this tank catching about 40
and while the whole female component of his
The
family
promo shot.
stood there and just walked us.
Yeah.
It was like they had bonded together in humiliation.
They were like jumping.
Some more humiliated than
they were like-
others.
So who's tagged?
My mom's neighbor.
Okay, so that's it.
No, she was just like, she had hundreds of tilapia, like little babies. She drained like all of them. She was like, I want to get carp, I hate tilapias. Come to my house and get it. She was like, okay.
So you got a free.
Yeah, fish. Yeah.
Alright.
Not too bummed about them dying.
What?
Fish don't have souls. That's why vegetarians can eat fish.
You've killed 3 mollies so far, right?
Three mollies.
You get
Okay.
submersible enclosures where you can put your pumps and stuff in.
What do you mean?
Akash is our version of Mangala.
For the plugs.
Yeah.
God willing, there's no God willing allowed.
I didn't really think that it would rain because it was right next to a drain as well. But last night it rained a lot. So what I'm going to do next is just get a Tupperware container, drill a hole for the wires, drill a duct tape it, silicone, seal it, and leave it somewhere high. It could have been avoided. It was a laziness on my part.
Like some people do that.
So once you guys get your stride in terms of harvesting, how do you see this going for the usual farm and whatnot? I'm assuming you can project it that far ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're looking at, and that's part of the way that me and Diane, what our plans are, is to try to get a bunch of farms to try this out, even if we have to get a little bit of money or round money from somebody else to get them to try this out and see it. The way the economics work out is that the fish, no one makes a lot of money from the fish. Fish will just be for their consumption and their protein. Of course, one of the challenges we're seeing is, especially in some parts of the country, eating river fish is not part of the culture. Some parts of the country, river fish is big. They're very happy to eat river fish and tilapia, but a lot of places they don't. They're not too big, So the economics are such that the fish is going to be just mostly for their consumption. Plants are just for the vegetables and whatever they produce is going to be something that they can both sell, and it's got lots of potential. The thing is finding that right the balance and also finding the right produce, the right crop that will suit them, which is not going to be necessarily the same thing for everybody. And the thing is, kangkong, we love kangkong and we're going to eat some kangkong because we just brought some of it, but it grows on the side of rivers, and I mean it's got all the gunk that rivers have to offer you, but at the same time it's something that people just spend no money doing. So getting the right crop is going to be most of the game.
So this is fresh water, right?
It's all fresh water.
There
are concepts of salt water, but that requires certain types of plants as well. Only certain plants work in salt water.
When you rear salt water, it's very difficult managing nitrates and all that as it is. With salt water, you can manage like the salinity and all that, and it's just.
And managing salt water this time is like really expensive.
It didn't work for Goda, sharp.
Yeah, it didn't work for Goda. Why would it work for us? But
So can you
to
replace-
touch on what he talked about, the whole organic thing with supplementing minerals, you can get like basically little balls of clay or soil or something that contains like potassium or phosphorus or something naturally in the soil and just add it. But purely from a chemical standpoint, we can purify like potassium to a very good degree. Just adding that, like, it won't kill you, it won't give you cancer or anything like that.
And even iron, if you're adding iron, you have to add it in an organic form, which is what they call chelated iron. You can't just add like a rusty nail. Although somebody recommended
Someone did recommend that.
I think I
Hear that, Diane?
He will hear that.
Hear that, Diane?
So
The
instead of
rusty
having it
bulbs
outdoor,
work.
can you move it indoor and just use lamps instead of sunlight?
Yes. You could.
But that would add another cost, wouldn't it?
It would be another cost to put in something like LEDs or something like that. But
They might look like a growing weed.
Yes.
But also you have to deal with potential leakage, right?
Some large scale plants like that where I think they use solar power or something, and it's
Singapore does a lot.
Singapore does a lot.
They just step grow it and grow it.
It is close.
Also, just a bit of an idea, if anybody is interested in this kind of thing,
The water is close.
and perhaps electronics another like step forward, I'm still like
out of it, you'll get some.
trying to get going is a combination of Arduino and RPI, if anybody's Is anybody familiar with Arduino and RPM?
No.
Arduino is basically like a microcontroller for controlling little like electronic components like motors and sensors, heat sensors, temperature sensors. And RPM is like a small computer that you can easily program to communicate with the Arduino and many other things. So one thing I've been considering is doing a sort of automated testing and fish feed and pH maintaining thing where you put the sensors in the water itself, send it through the Arduino, Arduino communicates with the RPI over Wi-Fi, and you can control the parameters and you can read the stuff and it will automatically log everything for you over the internet. So if you go on holiday or something, that can happen. There was actually one guy who fed his fish with Arduino.
With the guy who lost all his fish?
Yeah, because the Twitter website crashed. It didn't recognize that it had to feed the fish, and it died. And then he said Twitter killed his fish. So, it's an interesting thing.
Just to take it on another tangent, should we actually end up doing space travel? And they're always talking about the hydroponics bay and doing the greenhouse, traditional greenhouse, because that's all we know.
Aquaponics actually. NASA's doing a lot of research into aquaponics.
Really?
So aquaponics would be the way to go.
Yeah, if you can manage radiation and board deterioration and feeding people, you can do whatever you want to as long as you like. Those three things, that's it.
So that's considered, and the UN actually, Tinani said this at during her presentation last Salon. She said the UN recommended more modular feeding, more modular farming, household farming. So something like this, you saw us use like large containers and tanks and stuff. You can just as easily take like a small fish tank and just put like a raft on top, put the plants on, and put a few plants on, and have some fish, some nice ornamental fish even if you don't intend on eating it. And you can grow like some food that you can eat like maybe once a week or something once it reaches full capacity. Eventually maybe you could have like a room or balcony dedicated to growing your produce. And it can be done very efficiently with aquaponics. You get very high yields, no mess, all that stuff. It uses less water actually. We got to mention that.
Okay, that's right.
We take 90% less
So
water.
90% less water.
Yeah. Oh, just sorry. Yeah.
No worries.
I have a question that was asked on the internet, and one of the presenters didn't think it was a question worthy of an answer, and we'll see how he feels about this now. If the feedstock that you're feeding the fish, if that's not organic, does that mean that the produce ultimately is inorganic?
Fair question.
I would consider it to be organic because the thing that's feeding the fish isn't the feed itself, it's the fish poop. But I mean, with that logic,
the plants.
That's feeding the plants. I mean, everything is a cycle, right? If you feed your cows, artificial feed or give them any artificial supplements, and they poop it out and you use their manure to do like an organic farm, is that farm organic because you're feeding your cows something artificial? It depends on other people's definitions of it.
Yeah.
Personally, I think like that's
No, I think I agree.
Yeah.
It's just that there's no fertilizer, and there's no pesticide. So as far as I'm concerned, eat me happy.
I mean, I
think the definition of organic is also a bit ambiguous because there was a nice article. There was a nice article, I'll link it to the SciTech page, where there is certain number of pesticides that are still allowed and they're still categorized as organic. So it's not 100% natural at all.
And somebody was telling me the other day, somebody was telling me that if a farm gets flooded and the water comes from another farm, flows down from another farm that's using it, so that farm uses it's whatever certification, so there's a lot of things like that.
Now you said direct sunlight is not good, so that means darker the room the better.
Darken the room with the fish tank. You don't want sunlight going to the fish tank, but obviously you want it in your plant.
So my fish tank gets no direct sunlight, but gets a little bit of direct sunlight, but a lot of indirect sunlight, or a little bit of indirect sunlight. So you can, that's there. But my rafts are almost completely.
So theoretically, you could grow like cashew and pineapple and...
Yeah, you can grow trees, but it requires a different system, but it's possible, yes.
This is something called a wicking pot.
Okay.
It's a wicking pot is where you have imagine a pipe, and then on that pipe you have like a pot with full of straw, something that wicks up the water.
Yeah.
And in that you can grow a mango tree if you wanted. So it will grow within that, it will just suck it up, because you don't want the roots to be, because some plants and some trees don't like wet feet. So they respond really bad. The Kankun's happy, basil's happy, some of them won't.
It's literally called water spinach. Concrete's kind of cheating when you look at aquaponics, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, it's just well,
It's a newbie's plant.
fair enough. It's, yeah, exactly, it's a noob's plant.
So what's next for you guys? Are you guys going to move to more complex plants and more complex fish, or what's the story?
For you,
I am right now looking into finding a suitable growing medium, and I currently have like a bunch of tomato plants that are really tall and really want to get their feet wet. So I want to move on to tomatoes, and I want to move on to different climates and see if I can scale it up. Yeah, just basically diversify.
for me, it's I'm looking at tower system where I'm just going to start using like a system where you basically have vertical farming. So I'm just going to try to incorporate that into that and try to convince as many people to do test systems and share their data, because the whole point is to be able to see whether this works for Sri Lanka, and that's it.
So I sort of touched on it before in my other question about your timeline from when you started to now. But what do you reckon the timeline is from installation and population of the tanks to your first meal, or like a full meal with the tank?
Great question. I think it depends on the plant. Yeah, it depends on the plants what you're doing. But some plants, like for example basil, if you can get your first harvest as early as 30 to 45 days. Okay. Some plants like lettuce grows in 30 days. Yeah. So if you
kangkung also grows very fast.
Yeah, kangkung is really fast. So you can do that very fast. So if you have a steady amount of if you start with enough fish and
the cycling starts on time.
Yeah.
So basically your first, or at least 50% of your meal, saying the veggie part of it, within about 60 days, and you could potentially get a full meal, 100% of your meal, in about maybe 100, 200 days?
It varies. So once again, when you talk about full, like for example potatoes, once again you would have to figure out things like potatoes or starch and things like that. Those are hard. Those require other systems, and I wouldn't say that this is so far very, very good. We haven't yet explored that, because we think that given that we have really good systems.
And potatoes grow very well in a small amount of soil anyway.
Yeah, you can just grow it in soil. Potatoes and stuff you can grow in soil. Other ones you can grow in aquaponics quite well.
So yeah, but things like just like bell peppers, tomatoes, beans, leaf vegetables, everything, the lettuces, everything grows really, really well. So yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.